Saga here, and today I'm going to answer a question that was submitted on my position and submission video yesterday. It was a question about Temple of Anubis. His question reads, on Anubis, would you say it is best to push left or right? I find that everyone pushes left, but often ends up getting wiped. Meanwhile, on the right side you can gain higher ground, spill out onto the point, force them to move, etc. Thoughts? So there's a lot of ways to answer this question. There's like a very glib way where I say left or right. There's a very elusive way where I say it's based on composition, or I could give you a more full answer, and that's what I'm going to try to do right now. Alright, let's jump into Temple of Anubis. Question, by the way, was submitted by Kid Coolio, so thanks for that. So basically there's three main ways you can push this. The first way is by going through the left side room. Now the left side room is kind of a terrible way to push in because this is very easy space to control. There's like a narrow doorway in here, which I'm sure you guys know, and getting through this makes this box, it's pretty much a rectangular room, like a kill box where you will just die a terrible death. And over here you have a secondary kill box, which is another rectangle that people can just spam fire to, spam grenades, spam ice things, and bisect your team in all kinds of ways. It's just a narrow, crappy area to get in. Now the times where people successfully push through here, they do it mainly because the defenders make a mistake. So remember, defender original position was something like this, right? And if they push through, a lot of the mistakes I'll see is the Reinhardt will turn. A lot of the mistakes I see look like the Reinhardt turns to face them. And then they stand in this like really craptacular line where they get hit by literally every fire strike and every random shot not intended for them. The best way to do it is to have your Reinhardt face him, to move up to here, to give your people enough space to spread out into a concave and then fire at this choke. That way your people are spread out, are harder to hit, won't be hit by random fire intended for somebody else, and you once again are in a concave. Alright, the second major way to push through is through the right side. Through the right side looks one of two ways. It either looks like that, or it looks like this, right? I don't like pushing through here, even though there's a health pack here, unless you're sure it's safe, because this is again one of those kill boxes. I don't like that. Avoid kill boxes. You don't want to be in a place where just grenades are going to freely bounce off walls and hit you. And Junkrat's kind of popular right now. May is kind of popular right now. Any short, confined, claustrophobic space you don't want to be living in or spending much time there. So if you're going to go in, I kind of prefer this first route. We'll call this number 1 and this one number 2. So if you're taking route 1, you're going in, what's going to happen? A good defensive team's going to position with one person on the low ground. He'll usually be under the bridge. It's just hard for me to illustrate that. Reinhardt is here, and then your DPS will look like that probably, with a healer in the back. Or maybe a healer up front taking shots, it depends. But basically this formation is going to be doing damage to you the entire way in. And it's going to make it really hard for you to push up. So a good way to do that is to take a Farah and to use your knockback missile in order to knock them down from the high ground. This is gonna be really good for you. People are gonna find out surrounded, they're gonna have to retreat and have nowhere to do it. This is a very awkward area to get knocked down in. There's no easy retreat path for them. So if you do that, you're gonna do a good job of picking them off. They are still at advantage here, and because this formation can easily shift to the left and just bother you the entire way up. Also, if your team runs up without paying attention to their back flank, you also run the risk of being attacked from the rear. However, if you can make it to this area alive and then come up to the high ground, and then those who want to spill down on the point can do so, and those who want to stay up here and fight can do so, this is a really good position to get into, if you can get there. That is why I think the actual best way to deal with this formation is one of two ways. The best way, the absolute best way, I think, is dive. So you have a bunch of mobile characters, people like Winston, people like D.Va, and basically the idea of dive comp is that your team basically pushes up to this door and then immediately jumps up to the high ground using their movement abilities. This is Genji's, this is Pharah's, this is fast mobile things, mobile tanks, mobile healers, Lucio. You can make a dive comp a bunch of different ways. The main components are Winston, DPS that is highly mobile, tanks that are mobile, although I've seen it done with Zarya too, kind of like a slow tank to stand over here and shoot up, but it can be done all kinds of different ways. But the idea is you're jumping onto the back line, you're trying to kill off their healers so that it's, instead of a line battle where you're trying to pick each other off, more of a brawl. But your team is more suited to brawling. I like this because it's the most direct approach. If you lose, then you don't lose that much time, and you know what I mean? Like, the poking approach takes time to realize, oh, I'm losing now. Now it's time to try something else. But the dive comp is like, you go in there and you're either going to, you know, kill them and take the point immediately, or you're going to die immediately. But either way, it happens fast. Other way that you can break this quite easily is if you take your 4 normal team members and you position them poking at the gate. And then 2 flankers take this back path through the window out here and move into a flanking position. And then you set up a pincer attack. A pincer attack is basically a fancy way of saying you attack from both sides. But basically put one flanker up here, or if he can dive in and take out a healer or something, go ahead and do that. I'm thinking Genji or Pharah, that type of thing. Someone who can get in and get out quickly. And then another person can move up here, and you basically attack them from the rear and from the front. Now the key to making this work is those chevrons, so you can see through walls. The team that's waiting to push in is waiting till you guys are in position to do so. The 2 flankers that are behind are going to move in once this group moves in concurrently, so that this area is worried both about the people in front of him and the people behind. Okay, I hope I've answered your question as fully as possible. I think dive is the best. I think 2 flankers heading to the back is the second best. And if you're going to choose either right or left, I prefer right because there are less kill boxes on the way there. And once you break to that high point, it is such an advantage to control the high ground over people who are scrambling to deal with defenders that it might be worth the risk going right. There's a bunch of different ways to do this. There's new strategies all the time. Back in the day, we used to see Widow strategies be a big thing. So there would be a Widow versus Widow fight, where basically one Widow would kill the other Widow, and depending on which Widow wins this fight is depending on who has a significant advantage. Because if there's a Widow up here uncontested, raining death onto the enemy team, or if there's a Widow over here raining death onto the enemy team, it got really hard to push in via good Widow coverage. We don't see this strategy very much anymore because people don't really play Widow that much anymore, but with her being buffed and, you know, the future being a changing thing, I think this type of strategy will make a comeback. It's a good strategy, it still works today. The only reason I do not suggest you try this in a pug is because people will be upset that you're playing Widow. And where you could just tell them to shove off, it's usually a better idea to not create a toxic environment, even if your Widow's amazing. I mean, if your Widow is so amazing that it speaks for itself, then yeah, play Widow. But if your Widow is just kind of good, you don't want to be defensive all the time. It'll make you play worse. Kind of hate saying that. It sounds like capitulating to idiots, but it's a reality that toxicity matters and that this is a team game and you should care about their opinions even if they are misguided, even if your Widow's great. Okay, one last thing I forgot to mention. Occasionally you will have a very forward defender. So instead of defending on this wall over here, or defending, you know, in the regular line of defenders that we were talking about earlier behind a Reinhardt, what you're going to see is a very forward defender in this left side room, probably positioned here. Or if it's Junkrat, maybe positioned here. So if it's Junkrat, you expect a trap in here, and you expect him lobbing grenades into this room. So this room becomes pretty much unpassable for a team that doesn't want to kill this Junkrat first. You can kill the defender in this room. If this is a Junkrat and he's absolutely barring you from going the left side, and for some reason you want to go left side, a good way to do that is to send a Genji in through here, and then have him blade dash up over the wall, and then come down onto the Junkrat. Now the problem with this is obviously you've used blade dash to get in, but it is a possible strategy. You could do it with Pharah. It's much more dangerous with Pharah because she can't reflect on the way in if it gets hairy. And the other defender to worry about would be Mei. Mei is usually positioned here, either waiting to drop an ice wall here, or waiting to trap one person in with her.
None of you seem to understand. I'm not locked in here with you.
That's it! You're locked in here with me!
when it comes to strategies like this, one of the best ways to deal with an unmovable defender either here or here is to just ignore them and to just push this way while covering your flank. So if you push in this way, they may come in from behind, but you just are aware of that. So the people pushing in with you will check their rear every now and then. The best part about this is if they decide to take the long way around, back up to here, it'll take them a considerably long time to where it's a 6v5 until they get there. And by pushing in through the back, like if you have a May, you can block this off, or you can just cover your rear as you push, as I said before. This forward position is good if they're going to attack the left side room, but if they're not going to run into the left side room, having a defender there means that they have to run all the way back. And the very last thing I forgot, but is totally worth mentioning, is occasionally you will be in a dumb game where people are positioned stupidly. Namely, the enemy team is beyond the wall. So they probably shouldn't be leaving the cover of this amazing chokeway, right? But occasionally you'll see people like a Reinhardt set up here, waiting to charge in and take somebody with him. A Torbjorn who sets his turret up here. Occasionally a Torbjorn who stays next to his turret here. These things will happen, and when this happens, or like a Genji setup here, I've even seen a Widowmaker up here. When stuff like that happens, when dumb things happen, what you need to do is stop your plan, have your advancing team turn, and kill them first. And once they're dead, you'll be up either, one or two people. Maybe you'll be going in 6 versus 4 favoring you, or 5 versus 4 favoring you. It should be a much easier fight once you push in, if your whole team turns around and deals with them. If your team does not turn around, they will often get the value that they need in order to justify making such a stupid move. So just be aware of that. Alright guys, if you like my content, I make Overwatch things, I do Hearthstone stuff, I vlog, I travel the world, I do all kinds of things. Please subscribe and leave me comments. Like, I want to get a dialogue going. I'd like to do some AMA stuff in the future and all kinds of other things, but, discussion. See ya.